Welcome to 30 Minutes in the New Testament. 30 Minutes in the New Testament is a 1517 Podcast Network podcast. You can go to 1517.org/podcast and check out all of the other podcasts that are living over there. While you're over there, of course, check out everything else that 1517 is doing. Sign up for, 7 academies, buy 11 books, and subscribe to 20 podcasts. That's what you should do with your afternoon. And then when you're done with all that, and you're like, how have I not paid a cent for any of these things I've done? I mean, I just got like a lot of free education. Well, then you just go over to the right-hand corner, hit the donate link, and, you become, a contributor. That's what you do. You can be a reoccurring donor to the work of 1517. And if you are someone who already does that, thank you very much. We very much appreciate it. Guys, we are in Matthew chapter 26. Towards the end, Jesus has been betrayed. He has been arrested. He's been tried a little bit, so that he's been brought before the chief priests. They've got some people to bring some testimony, twist some words. The Pharisees and the chief priests are tearing their garments because out of this like faux performative outrage that Jesus is saying that he is in fact the Christ. And this results in Jesus being spat on, mocked, slapped, ridiculed. And all this is going on, and you kind of have this thing that Jesus said previously, this prophetic word that he gave to Peter, that Peter would not only desert him, but when the fire really got hot, that Peter would actually deny him. And Peter is in the background here. You have to imagine Peter sort of maybe, cloak over the head. You have the text to say he's warming his hands by a charcoal fire and this kind of stuff. So he's watching all this go down, but he's trying to kind of conceal himself in the mob.
And unfortunately for him, it doesn't work. And so we pick it up at verse 69 of chapter 26. It says, "Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl came up to him and said, 'You also were with Jesus the Galilean.' But he denied it before them all, saying, 'I do not know what you mean.' And when he went out to the entrance, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, 'This man was with Jesus of Nazareth.' And again he denied it with an oath, 'I do not know the man.' After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, 'Certainly you two are one of them, for your accent betrays you.'" That's the problem. Even if you're under a cloak, the accent does betray him. Then he began to invoke a curse on himself and to swear, "I do not know the man." And immediately the rooster crowed. And Peter remembered the saying of Jesus, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. Now, Matthew doesn't include this detail, but we're told in the other gospel accounts that not only did the rooster crow, but at that moment, in a very heartbreaking statement, we're told that Jesus actually looked at Peter and met eyes with Peter. And so you don't really have to read too deeply into this to sense the tremendous sense of heartbreak that Peter feels over what he's done and that Peter feels over what's happening to his Lord.
Yeah, one of the things that is revealing about this text, I mean, if you have any self-awareness at all, you have Peter, and, we've had our fun with Peter during the course of Matthew. He's a guy that is quick to speak, has said some things, like, I'm willing to die. I'm going to die for you. Like, if they take you, they're taking me, and all this kind of stuff. And some of it, may be true if Jesus was ready to fight. We talked about this last episode, that perhaps it seems that Peter is willing to fight with him. But what Peter is confronted with here is sort of the dismantling of everything that you maybe think you are. And he has suddenly become extremely aware of his own weakness, right? I mean, his own inability to stand up under pressure. And like, this is while watching someone that you genuinely love go through this, and then you reveal yourself to be a coward. Mm-hmm. This is a tough moment for him, no doubt.
I'm reminded of the quote from C.S. Lewis that you really don't know how bad you are until you try really hard to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know that Peter, I mean, we have every reason to believe that he was sincere in his declarations to Jesus, that he meant it at the time, that he really thought that he would stand with him. But when push came to shove here, his true colors are shown. His inability to stand with Jesus is shown. And he is, I mean, and we know, if we move forward in the story, that there's every indication that he thinks he's probably blown it beyond repair.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a sad story. I remember hearing this a couple times preached on, like, as a warning about faithfulness, and I can't even imagine a worse way to preach on this text. Because I think last week was kind of insightful, because the idea that Peter did seem willing to go to battle.
Yeah.
He just didn't understand. I mean, it's on him that he didn't understand. Jesus had been pretty clear about this for a very long time. He just didn't understand what the situation was. And the situation was, like we said last week, a lamb to the slaughter. And how do you wrap your head around that when for 3 years you thought you were leading up to a culminating battle in Jerusalem, and that, maybe you'd die, but at least you were going to go out fighting. And the thing is, no, just sit here. Just sit here, be arrested, say nothing, get mocked, spit on, beat, eventually get nailed to a tree, and you don't know why. And you believe in the resurrection of the dead, like, sort of as an idea.
A general. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not really thinking of it as, okay, he's going to die, and very quickly after that, he's going to rise, like actually rise. So you can see not wanting to be the next one that they take away defenseless and mock and spit on and beat, yell in their face, yell ridiculous things in their face too. And just like we said last week, seems like demon possession screaming. So
it's also shocking the way Peter goes about trying to sort of save his own skin, by invoking a curse on himself. I mean, we know from the context of the Old Testament and the New Testament that this kind of thing is not held lightly. I mean, if you call down a curse on yourself in the Old Testament, there are instances where, like, you can't escape that. Like, and it's the same thing with, like, when somebody blesses another person. No matter, like, when you think about the story of Esau and Jacob, for example, even though Jacob deceives Isaac into getting the blessing that he meant for Esau, it can't be revoked.
Yeah.
And so the extreme nature of what Peter does to try and get away from the consequences of being associated with Jesus is really, really strong here. And so it's very understandable that Peter thinks I'm done for.
Well, think about this contrast that you have, and like this is how you know that you are just like like made up of contradictions, right? And what is Peter doing there? Like, so he's bold enough, brave enough, cares about Jesus enough to be in the crowd, like watching what goes on, but not strong enough to be associated with him. And and this is what I mean by, in this moment, you discover, like, you are not as strong as you think you are, right? And you will, and this happens in smaller ways, of course, or sometimes in huge ways in your own life too, where you discover that you are a sinner. You discover that you're not whatever it is that you might have thought you were. And this will cause you to go out and weep bitterly sometimes.
Probably more than any other figure in the Gospel of Matthew, Peter has reminded us of the doctrine of the simul.
Yeah.
I mean, we've mentioned it numerous times that this is these are issues that highlight the fact that, on the one hand, you're capable of having good desires, you're capable of wanting to do the right thing, and yet at the same time you find yourself doing the exact opposite. I think back to Peter confessing that Jesus is the Christ, and then right after,
Lord, may it never be.
and literally being called Satan,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, this is the reality, though, for every human being. I mean, there is no judgment here from any of us toward Peter because
Yeah.
we all are prone to the same problems.
Well, I probably wouldn't have even been there. I don't know where the other disciples are. Probably what's true is they're not brave enough to do what Peter's doing.
Yeah.
But Peter finds out that he's not brave enough to see it through really either. And yeah, maybe it's easy to to look at Peter and be like, "What are you doing, man? Where are the other disciples? I'd probably be wherever they are. You know, they're not there. They're not hanging out doing trying to stay close and
Yeah, they're
and
either
see what
scattered
goes
to the
on.
wind or they're hunkered down somewhere real tight.
Yeah, yeah. And so Peter does believe something that we all believe about ourselves at different times and find out differently, which is I think I'm something other than what I am, you know. And you're going to find out. Maybe if you haven't found this out yet. This is the old if you live long enough, you bleed kind of thing, where like you're gonna dear listener, if you haven't figured it out yet, you're gonna figure it out.
Yes.
You're probably weaker and frailer than you think you are, and Peter finds this out, and yeah, dude. For me, just like the line, like this chapter ending, and he went out and wept bitterly. Like this is heartbreaking
Yeah.
because you talk about a guy that's in need, and we'll get there eventually. When Peter has to wait a little while for this absolution, and man, he went out and wept bitterly. Like, how bad does this dude need an absolution?
Yeah.
I mean, because this seems like this conviction sets in immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, when we skip towards the end, the fact that Jesus not only will absolve Peter, but will also reinstitute Peter
Into the ministry.
into an office of authority to preach the gospel at the same moment is remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is why Jesus looking at Peter was like all the law it took.
That's
right. For him to be completely ruined. And yeah, this is going to be a long 3 days for him as he awaits, and he doesn't know it's coming. But and it's like Jesus doesn't mess around with it either, man. I love the Peter passage. Like Jesus is going, we're spoiling it, but Jesus is going to give him the goods.
And just as a point of application, dear listener, sometimes you can preach the law by just giving a look. And anybody who's a parent
I was going to say,
knows that can be the case.
if you haven't mastered that as a father, keep practicing.
Well, and it can be different with each child. I mean, I know we're going far afield here, but I have some children I just need to give a look to, and that's it. I have some that need a little bit more.
Hey, look, and I don't know what it's like to have Jesus look at you dead in the windows of your soul, but I bet you that's all it takes, dude. That's I don't know what that look has packed in it, but I'm sure it's devastating.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to chapter 27. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate the governor. Then when Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he changed his mind and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. They said, what is that to us? See to it yourself. And throwing down the pieces of silver into the temple, he departed, and he went and hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since it is blood money. Goodness gracious.
I mean, come on now.
Whoa. I don't know if it would be lawful. It's very important.
It's okay to give.
Talk about straining out the gnat, man.
Yeah, it's okay to give blood money. Just don't put it back in the bank.
So gross. So they took counsel and bought with them the potter's field as a burial place for strangers. Therefore that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken by the prophet Jeremiah, saying, and they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him on whom a price had been set by some of the sons of Israel. and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord directed me.
Okay. Now, if you thought that the Peter thing was sad, let me tell you one of the saddest verses in all of the New Testament. And it's this line coming out of the Pharisees' mouth and the chief priest's mouth. If you want to know, if you just want it like all distilled down, what is Jesus' main beef with the religious leaders? Here it is. Like, Judas comes and says, "Hey, I've sinned. I've betrayed innocent blood. I didn't know we were doing this. Like, I thought you guys wanted to have a conversation. I thought you wanted to, redirect his path. You didn't say anything about like putting this guy to death. I didn't know murder was on the menu. That's not what I was signing here. You got to take this money back." Here's the confession. Listen to this, guys. I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. The religious establishment says, "Oh, you're a sinner? What is that to us? See to it yourself."
Yep.
This is Jesus' entire problem with these guys, is that their job, their role, what they've been set up to do is, sin is that it ought to be everything to you. This is your job, is to deal with the sins of the people. This is what you're in place to do. And it's the very thing that they will not do.
Judas sounds like a man desperate for absolution.
Oh, dude.
And
Well, you don't even have to tune your ear to hear a confession when somebody comes up to you and says, "I have sinned. I've betrayed innocent blood."
Yeah.
It's obvious. I mean, this doesn't even take like good listening. This is just a reality. The reality is they don't see their job as the forgiver of sins.
And here's the danger, man. This is the danger of religiosity, that you would advocate your duty to be the dealer of the one who deals with sins, right? This is like what you're set up to do. At the same time, you are very concerned about this rule about blood money in the treasury.
Yeah.
Like now you want to talk about just having all your priorities like completely out of whack. This is it. These guys are so deluded, and listen, you can get there, where they're like, "I don't care about your sins, but I do care about these rules."
That's right.
That's exactly the problem. And by the way, this is not something unique to the time or unique to the religious establishment overseeing this whole thing, because I can think of friends that I've had that have screwed up royally, did something absolutely terrible, worthy of condemnation, worthy of being called damnable sin. And they've gone to their pastor and basically confessed the same type thing that Judas does here. They come clean with what they've done. And they've asked, point blank, "Can I be forgiven? Or am I even a Christian after this?" Desperate for a word of absolution, and been told something like, "Well, probably not."
Oh my gosh.
I've know people firsthand that have had this happen to them. And, you talk about the ultimate abdication of responsibility for a pastor. You have to. You are obligated. If somebody confesses their sin to you, you are obligated to hand over the
kind of like saying, that if you're a policeman and you watch a robbery go down, that it's not your job to do something about it, right? I mean, it's the essential function of the job. Or a fireman who passes by a fire while they're in their fire truck. I mean, it's essential to the job. It's essential to the job when you're a pastor to forgive sins. I mean, it's why the job exists at the end of the day. You stand in the stead of the Lord Jesus Christ to speak the words of forgiveness to those in need. And you do that through preaching. We say you do that in baptism, you do that in the Lord's Supper, and you do that during the absolution, especially when somebody comes up to you and says, "I'm a sinner, I've done this." Your job isn't to suss out the veracity of their faith. Your job is to hear their confession and forgive their sins.
Well, too, don't you think that this is, could it be more obvious that the religious leaders have let the law predominate while minimizing we would say the gospel, or in this, the promises of forgiveness and this kind of stuff? So the danger here is very real. This is like so like black and white that maybe you'd be like, well, who would do this? But this is the danger when you do have in the church making the law the main thing.
Well, and you're
which is
even
every
making
time,
you're
too.
you're even making a version of the law the main thing that isn't the law proper. Like you're making the laws the main thing, not the law.
the
Main
rules,
thing.
right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, this guy, the law has done its work. Like the law is in effect. It's done. And what they're concerned about are the laws, like their laws, the ones that they are so focused on, the only ones they think about. Are they even really worried about the ultimate law, the proclamation of guilt to everybody? Are they worried about the fact that they put Jesus on that tree as much as Judas did? Not at all.
No.
Yeah, the danger of this whole thing is that when a sinner is left hanging, no pun intended, when you don't give out the absolution, this is in effect saying deal with it yourself, and you can't deal with your sin yourself.
No,
Like, this is not an option.
This is where
It's not surprising that he hangs himself.
I think Eric and I have talked about this a little bit, but this is something that I've noticed in popular media, for 10 years, is that the world, ruled by the law, wants you to deal with your sin yourself. And you see this all the time on TV shows and movies when one person will come up to another person and apologize for something, and they'll say, well, I can't forgive you. You have to forgive yourself. Well, this is exactly what you can't do. You cannot deal with you can't deal with sin yourself. You can't absolve yourself. If you could absolve yourself, why would we need pastors? Why would you need the external proclamation of the word? You need to be forgiven, right? You need absolution.
Yeah. The end of dealing with sin yourself is death. This is like a vivid picture of that, but this is how it always ends. It might not end with you going hanging yourself from a tree, but the end of dealing with your sin yourself is death.
Yeah. Well, it's suicide.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it's suicide, but it's always death. Like it's going to kill
It's
you.
always,
Like,
oftentimes with people that feel immense guilt and are sort of trying to be taught to deal with it themselves or to look inside for the answers. Oftentimes it's suicide.
Yeah.
And it's just really rich here that they use the money in the final analysis to buy a field as a burial place for strangers, which is another way of saying people that they don't have fellowship with.
Well, it's a way of saying I think it actually means is as a burial place for people that are unclean and can't be buried in the right place.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, so not only are they condemning Judas,
like worried about the ceremonies again.
That's right.
Sounds like the kind of graveyard that Jesus wants to purchase.
Yeah, that's right.
Indeed.
There might be a parable about that somewhere.
Yeah,
I think there is.
Yeah.
So moving on to verse 11. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You have said so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. And the word amazed there could be translated, it might be better to translate it like perplexed.
Flabbergasted,
like because no one else responds like this when there's all these accusations being lobbed at him. No one else just stays silent. But of course, Jesus is fulfilling prophecy here that's exactly what the Lamb of God would do, that he would be silent. Isaiah tells us that. And so basically, he doesn't try to stand up for himself because, of course, he knows what the end goal is.
Well, Pilate's just perplexed, like, hey, is this guy even going to try to not get killed? Like, normally someone will, protest. Because here's and we'll see more of it, but the thing about Pilate is listening to to these chief priests, and he's very much like, yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So he's like, listen, dude, help me help you, because these charges seem absurd, especially
Trumped
if
up.
they want you dead. Like that sounds crazy to me. So help me help you. Like all you need to do is just say like, I didn't say that, and I'll just believe.
Yeah.
Like I'll just believe you. I'll be like, nah, I don't have enough evidence. I'm not doing that. You said he said it. He says he did. What are we doing here? And instead, Jesus is like, I'm not gonna say anything except for my go-to line, which is, "You have said so." And so the thing that Pilate doesn't get is like, hey, I would love to help you, but you're not helping me help you at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pilate, of course, doesn't get it because we know that there are other people running around all the time claiming to be messiahs, like actually claiming to be messiahs, and that the Jews aren't asking Pilate to kill them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And Pilate is in an unenviable situation.
Yes, he is.
If you're, Pilate's one of those guys. I always think about this when you recite the creed at church, and you're like, what a wild thing to go down in history. Like you're gonna be like, your name is gonna be said in churches all over the world for millennia. Crucified under Pontius Pilate, and you're like, dang. Even though he didn't really want to do it, he didn't really care. He didn't think Jesus was really terrible. He just was like, okay, I'm gonna have like a mob on my hands here. Like I got to do something. Like a completely political move. Had to wash his hands of the whole thing, and I think that Jesus, the silence of Jesus, is partially that. Jesus means to get himself killed. Of course, this is what he is set out to do.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Pilate is a pretty interesting character throughout the Gospels because one thing that's pretty unanimous in all four Gospels is his reticence, is his hesitation.
Well, that's because
and you don't get the
it's
impression
absurd.
that
The charges are absurd.
You don't get the impression though that it's because he would necessarily have a problem
with killing
crucifying somebody.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's it's not because of necessarily the goodness of his heart or anything like that.
no, it seems just like because he doesn't get it.
Yes. And he doesn't care about their particular laws.
He's not,
he
he's not
mentions
super
that.
interested in their religious infighting.
Well, I think I think he probably finds how could you not? I find the religious leaders extremely obnoxious. Like he doesn't care about their religion. I'm sure that these people are very obnoxious to him. These religious leaders, like all this pomp and circumstance. I'm sure he thinks it's all cringy, and he probably does it. He's probably reticent to set a precedent that, like, look. Every time someone does something that your religion doesn't like, you can't march them over here and take up a bunch of my time and have me put them to death. I'm not gonna. I'm not interested in setting that precedent. I'm not gonna get rid of your, whatever your cult leaders for your religion for you. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think that I'm sure that's part of it. He's like he probably doesn't want to give them what they want either.
He's not interested in making a full-time job of this.
No, and he's not interested in sort of being their henchman. He's like, that's not I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Nevertheless, it's all according to the foreknowledge and plan of God for the salvation of sinners, like Peter, like Pilate, like Barabbas, who we'll meet next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jesus is playing this exactly the way that he knows it has to be played, which is I will let the charges stand.
Yep.
Because
that's it.
Then, I've thought about this before, but as Jesus is some of these things, I mean, when they say he claims to be the Son of God, true enough, some of the charges, of course, are false. He says they bring in people to bear false witness against him and all this kind of stuff. And there is sort of in that way where he just takes that without saying a word. This is sort of you get that image of him taking on the sin of the world, which also includes even the lies about himself, even the false accusations, and him saying nothing and just saying, this is the moment. I am now taking all sin, including this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm going to do
absorbing it.
Yeah, I'm going to do it silently. So,
yeah.
All right, we are out of time. Yeah, next episode we'll get into the crowd choosing Barabbas. A lot to talk about there. Hopefully you guys will join us. I'll see you guys then.
Sounds good.
Bye.